In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Today I want to talk about stress in English. Okay? We can just go to page 204. Okay? There's a big discussion on prosthetic features. One of the things that Long One talks about is stress. We want to talk about stress today. Okay, let us see. Just go to page 205 and find two paragraphs to the end of tone and intonation. Let's see. The paragraph begins with in many languages. Okay, let's see. In many languages, including English, certain syllables in a word are louder, slightly higher in pitch, and somehow longer in duration than other syllables. These syllables are said to be stressed. Okay? So when you talk about stress in English, you talk about three things at the same time. Number one is these syllables are louder. So I'm talking normally, and now what do I say? I say loud. I say loud. The second one is, in fact, loud. Okay? I say, how are you? I say, how are you? This is louder. Okay? Number two is slightly higher in pitch. Okay? Higher in pitch means that instead of, in fact, using high frequency, you actually use high frequency sounds. What is the difference between men and women in talk? Men and women. The difference is that women are in fact higher in their pitch when they talk. Men are not that high. So if I say the word, for example, languages, if I say languages like this, it is high, it is in fact higher in pitch, which is somehow women like. Okay, so high in pitch means we're using more frequency. Okay, we use in physics the frequency in physics. Okay, what does it mean? It means that the women's when they are talking, the women use in fact faster vibration of their vocal cords. Faster vibration of their vocal cords. For men it is not that fast. For women it is faster. Okay, so what is the difference once more between a man's talk and a woman's talk? We say man's talk is louder, a man's talk is louder, and a woman's talk is higher in pitch. Okay, so back to the discussion of stress. We can say that stress is a combination of these two things and something else. Well, the syllable is louder, and at the same time the syllable is a higher in pitch. Okay, higher in pitch, like women. Okay, so if I say like a man, it is higher in pitch. It is low in pitch. But if I say like this, it is in fact higher in pitch. If I say now I change it to another sound. Let's say E. You say E. Suppose that this is normal pitch. Now I say E. This is in fact higher in pitch. It means that the vocal cords are vibrating faster. So back to the discussion of stress. Stress is a combination of these two things at the same time. Number one, louder. Number two, higher in pitch. Okay? And there's something like this, number three. And the stress, which is the syllable that receives the stress, is somewhat longer. Okay, so it is long. Say a short, a long. Okay, it is a bit longer. So there are three things that define, in fact, the stress. Number one, length. Number one is being louder, as I told you. Number two, being higher in pitch. And number three, longer in duration. Okay, so these syllables are in fact said to be well stressed. So this is the definition. Let us say, for example, line 1, 2, 3. We can say in English the word line 3, perfect, perfect, perfect. Or we can say it the other way, perfect, perfect, perfect. What is the difference between perfect and perfect? We say line 3 and line 4. We say the first one receives stress on the first syllable, but the second one receives stress on the second syllable. So there is a difference between perfect, line 3, and perfect, line 4. Okay? So remember, this is the pattern in English. We are going to talk about it later on. In English, it is different when you say perfect, line 3, or perfect, line 4. I will give an example in your English. If you say, well, something is very good and it is perfect, you say it's perfect, perfect, it is perfect, it is perfect. You stress the first syllable. You put a stress on the first syllable, okay? But when you say to perfect something, you stress the second syllable. What do I want to say? In English, there are some good words with two types of stress. In English, there are two types of words. One receives the stress on the first syllable, the other receives the stress on the last syllable. Examples like perfect and perfect. Okay? Or in the previous edition of this book, it was something like digest and digest. So the book has changed it to perfect and perfect. The same holds true in the older edition of the book, and this is something like digest and digest. Digest, digest. Digest and digest. Okay? So if there's a when it is a noun, it is a noun or an adjective, the stress is on the first syllable. If it is a verb, the stress is on the second syllable. Examples, these two examples that I gave you, perfect and perfect. Perfect and perfect. Number one. Number two, I gave you your last edition of this book. In the last edition, it was something like digest and digest. What is the rule? In English, it is important. In English, it is important to stress syllables. Okay? And there are words like these, perfect and perfect. And there are words like digest and digest. So if I say, in fact, I use it something like, there's a magazine in English called Reader's Digest. The stress is on the first syllable of the word digest. Reader's Digest. Reader's Digest. The stress is on the first syllable of the word digest. Can I say digest? where the stress is on the second syllable, I say yes. I say yes. So, when is it? When the word digest is a verb. How do we say it? We say digest. The stress on the second syllable. Okay? Now, I will give you one example. So you say your belly, your stomach is, or my stomach or my belly is digesting food. Digesting food. Okay? When you say digesting, you add ing to a verb to use it in present perfect, present simple present, present continuous tense. It is something like this. He or she is digesting, or the animal is digesting the food. Digesting. How do you say? You say digest. You never say digest. You never say digest. Again, I am repeating. In English, it is very important for you, because you are going to be teachers of English, to put the stress on the proper syllable. And there are words in English like the perfect and perfect, digest and digest, where the stress is on the first syllable when they are nouns or adjectives. But when they are verbs, the stress is on the second syllable. Okay? We are going to continue with this kind of list on page 243 and 44. 244 actually, okay? We go about let's say 40 pages ahead to continue. But before that, let us go to English, the second syllable, the second paragraph. English is a stress-timed language, meaning that some syllables will be longer and some shorter. Some with the stress, some with less stress. Okay? So, English is a stress-timed language, meaning that it means that some syllables will be longer and some shorter, and the intervals between the stressed syllables are roughly equal in length. Okay? But it is not the case in French. French, on the other hand, is a syllable time language. It means that the syllables are the same size. Okay? Almost the same size. That's the difference. But in English, when you talk in English, you think that you understand easily that the words in English are like this. That one word is bigger, the one syllable is bigger, the other is smaller. It's like, for example, when you're standing in a row, okay? In a row, in a line, okay? One is longer, the other is shorter. Okay, suppose it is like this. Somebody is longer, the other is shorter. And this is like this. The English sentence looks like this. When you look at the sentence or an utterance in English, you see that one syllable is longer, the other is shorter. Longer, shorter, longer, shorter, like this. But in French, it appears that all syllables are almost the same. This is the difference in English. So remember, what does it mean? It means that stress is very important in English. I'm going to finish this part on this chapter, chapter, and I'm going to go to the next chapter on page 243 and 4. 243 and 4 to continue the discussion, the important discussion of stress in English. Okay, let us go to that page. Page 243. 243. 243. 242 and 243. Okay, prosodic phonology. This is the beginning of the discussion, and it talks about syllable structure. I'm gonna talk about syllable structure later on. But when you go to the next page, it is the word stress on page 244. Okay, well, other examples of the same type of words like digest or perfect and perfect appear here. Okay, let us read it, this part. Word stress. In many languages, including English, line 1, one or more of the syllables in every content word are stressed. Okay? Well, one or more syllables. For example, in the 4 lines below, one syllable receives stress. We are talking about words with more than syllables on the last line, the last 2 lines of this page. Before this, well, there are 2 other examples in addition to digest and perfect and perfect. They are here. Line 2. A stressed syllable which can be marked as an acute accent is perceived as more prominent and than an unstressed syllable. When it is prominent, it means that it is louder. You remember I told you at the beginning, louder with higher pitch and longer duration. Okay? So let us see. As shown in the following examples. Well, when we want to show the stress, we use a sign called accent, an acute accent. Okay? On the first line of the word pervert. 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 Okay? You can easily see that the first syllable receives stress. How do I say? I say pervert. It's a noun. It's a noun. I told you, when the stress is on the first syllable, it's a noun or an adjective. But when it is on the second syllable, it is a verb, line 2. Okay? Line 1, back to line 1. It's pervert. As in, line 1. There's an example sentence there. You say, my neighbor is a pervert. My neighbor is a pervert. My neighbor is a pervert. Okay? Why? Because we have the word a before it, so it is a noun, and we have to have the first syllable as the stressed syllable. How do I say? I say pervert. Pervert. Line 2. It's pervert. Pervert. Okay? A verb. The verb has got the stress on the second syllable. Okay? Of course, these verbs. Don't pervert the idea. Don't pervert the idea. Okay? Don't pervert the idea. Okay? Well, maybe some of you who are good in English, you already know it. Okay? So if you want to pay attention to word stress, remember you are going to show up your very good English. If you are talking in your very good English, you are actually following these lines. Why? Because all native speakers are like this. Of course, they don't know verbs and nouns, but when they use things like these, like pervert and pervert, they are using the stress in the very specific place according to whether it's a noun or it is a verb. So go online and find these words on stress if you want. Or if your English is good, use your good English in these examples. Okay? Line 3, subject. Line 4, subject. Line 3, subject. Line 4, subject. Okay? Let's see. Line 3 says subject. It's a noun. As in, let's change the subject. Let's change the subject. Let's change the subject. Okay? Or let's go to the last line. Subject. Subject. As in, he'll subject us to criticism. He'll subject us to criticism. I say subject. Subject. So, what do I say? I say the words with stress on the second syllable. Okay? Okay? That's it. Okay. Now, is it the case that we have two stressed syllables in one word? We say yes. Is it the case that we can have two stressed syllables in one word? The last line says yes. The last line says yes. Okay, let's see. When there are more than 3 syllables, when there are 4 syllables or more, a word with more syllables, okay, polysyllabic words, we can have 2 stresses there. The book shows it with 2 stresses on the last 2 lines. Okay, look at this last 2 lines. One is the biggest stress, and the other one which is a bit smaller. One big stress, and the second one a smaller stress. So what do we call these 2 things? We call it that the primary stress and secondary stress. Primary stress and secondary stress. Okay? You show the primary stress like line 1, 2, 3. Okay? With an acute accent. Line 3. Okay, to the last. But if you want to show secondary stress, you show it with grave accent, the last line before the examples. Okay? This is important. I am going to show these words to you. Let us see. Let us see. Resignation. 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 Fundamental. Fundamental. Linguistics. Linguistics. Introductory. Introductory. Systematic. Systematic. Revolution or revolution. Revolution. Okay? Well, what do you see? You see 2 stresses on these words. Let's see. The first word. In the first word, we have 2 stresses. The first one is res. Res in resignation. And the other is nay in resignation. Which one is bigger? The second one is bigger. You say resignation. Resignation. How is it? We say res with a secondary stress, but the bigger stress is nay, resignation. Look at the, in fact, acute accent and the grave accent in these words. Okay? I am just looking at other examples as well. The word fundamental, it has again got two stresses. One is on the fun, and the other is on the syllable men. So we say fundamental, fundamental. Which one is bigger? The one with the acute accent on the second one. The second one. Actually, the third syllable. The same holds true for other examples as well, like linguistics, introductory, systematic, and revolution. For all these four words, again, we have the same thing. The first syllable begins with a secondary syllable, and the third syllable begins with a primary stressor. So the first syllable begins with a secondary stress, and the third with a primary stress. Okay, well, for all these words. So linguistics, introductory, systematic, and revolution. Well, on the next part, we are talking about sentence stress. Okay, I just stop here, and I will, in fact, give an kind of exercise. I'm going to repeat the same thing because you're studying offline. You are going to, in fact, listen to me carefully. I'm going to, in fact, repeat these things in the second, in fact, part of today's lecture.